Level complete.
Loading.
Stage 1.
Level 2.
Satellite, be the book girl already. Well, that was something of an anticlimax. You are now the book girl. As far as you are aware, computers are not meant to function in that manner. It looks like you've encountered some sort of fatal error. You knew what you were getting into when you downloaded a shady file from an unverified source, but you're rather upset nonetheless. It occurs to you that you've yet to properly introduce yourself. Your name is Emily Lunsford. You have an active interest in literature, and you pride yourself on curating your book collection to the best of your ability. You enjoy writing, though you tend to keep your work to yourself, away from the scathing criticism of the outside world. You consider yourself to be somewhat of an introvert, and while you don't find social interaction to be one of your strong suits, you're making a genuine effort to improve, occasionally when you feel up to it. Though many claim it to be childish, you can't help but admire a webcomic known as Problem Sleuth 2. You enjoy the complex themes and narrative tropes found within, which often parallel many of the nuances of contemporary literature. You could go on and on about the ways in which you admire the comic, but it boils down to the fact that you'd be remiss to miss the ending. Very remiss. Unfortunately, there seems to be a minor roadblock in your path to viewing the long-awaited conclusion to your beloved webcomic. In addition to the fact that your computer has been requisitioned by an unidentified web client, there also appears to be a rather foreboding aura of apocalyptic intent spewing forth from the heavens above. You sincerely hope this sudden bout of aggravated Armageddon doesn't interrupt your plans to catch the ending of the comic. You would be rather irritated if that were to happen. In any case, your hands are tied at the moment, so you might as well find something else to do. Meteors, stop falling so an introvert can finish her webcomic. The meteors give their best and the best they can, but it seems like at this point in their lives falling is simply out of their control. You could try asking the universe to stop making gravity be a thing, but you feel this would be ill-advised. Emily, build a fort out of books. Careful to avoid damaging the bindings, you arrange a few of your books into a lean-to. Satisfied with your work, you retreat into the novel hovel, any tension completely dissolved. Surrounded by knowledge, you feel a sense of belonging. That is, you would if your modus actually cooperated for once. Operating on a timer system, it can keep your items stored from anywhere, from an instant to an entire day. Unfortunately, nowhere on the instructions did it state how to actually set the timer, so you're stuck with randomly generated intervals until further notice. Looks like the tome home is out of the question then. Emily, examine notebook by window. This is your journal. You tend to shy away from writing about the tedium of day-to-day life, instead filling the pages with your personal reflections and musings. Perhaps, if decided by a keen eye, these jottings would act as a window to your psyche, allowing for a glimpse of your true self. Perhaps, but not likely. Emily, examine posters and fan roll as hard as you can. The posters are nice and you appreciate them, but you don't have it in you to get excited over a few pieces of paper on the wall. You instead take this moment to acknowledge the craftsmanship of the artwork. The scenes which they depict might just be your favourite in all literature, and for good reason. No other work of fiction has so elegantly portrayed the catharsis of escapism, as far as you are aware. For a brief moment, you examine the posters in great detail, observing each of the subtle techniques in turn, before getting a move on with your life. However, it seems your computer has other ideas. Apart from the foreign program that has forcefully pinned itself to your taskbar, nothing about your desktop seems amiss. Now then, where to start? Emily, stop saving PS fan art in a Word doc. There's .png for that. After witnessing a number of creative breakdowns, you've developed an irrational fear of artists purging their work from the web. To combat this, you've locked your most cherished pieces away within a password-protected Word document in which they can never. New passwords are generated each day, and if the files were to be tampered with, your computer would immediately self-terminate. Surely, this is the most logical solution. Emily, hatch egg icon to create digital scrambled eggs. While Tiamat contains no digital collectibles, it's still the most appropriate browser for a sleuth fan such as yourself. Sure, there are a few minor drawbacks. Slow load times, compatibility issues, obstructive toolbars, high RAM usage, a lack of security options, recurrent freezings, translation errors, unauthorized reboots, and a tendency to delete itself, just to name a few. Any of these would be a deal breaker by themselves, but Tiamat has exclusive rights to the one and only official Problem Sleuth theme, and you wouldn't be able to live with yourself if you passed that up. Emily, attempt to figure out the cause of this mysterious occurrence via the Problem Sleuth subreddit. You're accustomed to digging through mounds of garbage to find even moderately tolerable threads, but this cavalcade of spam is well beyond your threshold. At least you know that the rest of the sub is in the same boat. You're probably more likely to get results by contacting individual users than by sifting through this cesspool. Emily, warn others about downloading Sburb.x. You pick a user at random, resolving to warn them about the program in an act of goodwill. Maybe you can get some information in the process. This is a warning. Your computer may be infected.
Are you serious? I can't deal with another issue today. I thought I finally drew something halfway decent, but then my hand slipped and smudged the ink. Not to mention the fact that my best pencil is nowhere to be seen. And you know what else?
Not now.
Tactless.
Emily, contact someone via Reddit for help with the game. That was a waste of time. Perhaps a more direct approach will get you better results. That game on our PS2, did you download it? If you haven't, don't. I suspect that it's a virus.
Well, hello to you too, Typer. Always the conversationalist, aren't you? Unfortunately, you're the slightest bit late. I've already installed it. As far as I'm aware, everything seems to be in working order. After the initial crash, at least. Are you sure it's a virus?
It commandeered my computer without my permission. The very definition of a virus.
I'm not convinced. I haven't noticed any particularly malicious behavior, and my computer seems to be running without issue. Maybe it's just a buggy program and you're far too quick to judge. Have you considered opening it up and having a go?
No, I don't trust it.
Come on, Typer. Where's your sense of adventure? Even if it were a virus, it's not like your computer could get any more infected than it already is.
The damage will be contained. Interaction would only encourage it.
How about this? We'll work together to collect as much data about the game as possible. Once we've amassed sufficient information, we'll release our findings to the rest of the sub, potentially saving hundreds of computers. I know you can't turn down an opportunity for research.
Not in most cases.
If anything goes wrong, we'll simply reboot our computers and call it a day. What do you say, bud?
If you're sure that it will work, I will give it a try.
That's the spirit. I'm glad you see things my way.
Emily, click on weird orange spirally thingy. Might as well get this over with. This is a bit strange. Emily, search your room for hidden observation devices. You move from your seat to locate the device that is recording you. It appears to be, impossibly, behind the wall. This is very strange. You are sure there must be a logical explanation. Emily, hypothesize. From the data available, you can surmise that the moment you downloaded the game, your coordinates were parsed and transmitted to an as-of-yet undisclosed third party, following extensive triangulation. Your location was then fed to a satellite, which, by use of an infrared scanner, is able to view you through solid objects. From there, the feed was modified to appear on the visible spectrum before being broadcast to your computer. This is the obvious explanation, and therefore the most likely to be correct. Satisfied, you continue your experimentation. Emily, experiment with the interface. Are there any other odd bugs or glitches you can identify? You don't know enough about the game to recognize a bug if you saw one. You figure that if you're able to decipher these outlandish symbols, you might get some idea of the program's intended use. You navigate to the first button in the row. Interesting. You make a few minor adjustments before moving on. You feel this tool will be very useful. Emily, click on the blue gusher icon. You find yourself at an inventory screen of some sort. A list takes up the majority of the screen, showcasing what appears to be a collection of sweets. Unfortunately, you don't have a single virtual confection to your name. It seems this menu won't be of any use for the time being. You make a note to return here at some point in the near future. Emily, update Dagwood Deluxe on interface. It appears that the program is not as malicious as you once thought, although you and your room are now under close observation by a shady third party, whose identity and motives remain entirely unknown. Your computer seems to be undamaged, and that is all that matters. You feel you should inform Dagwood of your change of heart. However, it seems that he has already gone offline. Shame. You'll have to compare notes at a later junction. Emily, check if anyone else has gotten to this point. After an eventful session of menu analysis, you think you're ready to pass the torch to somebody else. With all these features to test out, you could use some time alone.
Luke, panic. You're going to die. Luke, don't die. You succeeded not dying. This is no time for morbid assumptions. Luke, get out of Panic Station already. Panic Station! The Panic Station is not a physical location, but rather a state of mind. Still, you don't think you'll be leaving it anytime soon. If you haven't noticed, there are meteors outside. Luke, hug your horse plush to calm your nerves. You would if you weren't so concerned about damaging his coat with your freshly secreted finger sweat. Besides, his presence alone fills you with immense vitality. Luke, how's that game coming along? You're still getting used to the whole manipulation of space and time thing. Luckily, the speedy lumps of space rock have numbed you just enough to roll with it. Might as well play around with it while there's still time. You place the device labeled Cruxtruder in your kitchen. Nice going, you're saved. You figure you should go check it out in person. You exit your room, quietly shutting the door behind you to avoid alerting your older brother. Really, the last thing you need today is another run-in. You're not in the mood for a half-hour argument over your conflicting PS theories. He's probably wearing that stupid mask, too. Ugh. Luke, retrieve eye blades from brother. You wouldn't dare. Your brother is extremely protective of his eye blades, and even so much as looking at them the wrong way might result in another hour-long confrontation. Instead, you wait with bated breath for him to make his next move. Much to your dread, he merely stands motionless, surely reveling in his victory. His eyes lock onto yours, daring you to toss out another rebuttal. He says nothing, but his piercing gaze tells of boundless theory-crafting expertise. Deep down, you knew you were never ready for this. Luke, inform brother of the present situation regarding meteors and imminent death. Eager to change the subject from your humiliating defeat, you quickly draw his attention to the scores of approaching meteors up above. You tell him about the strange program on your computer, and about the fact that both of you are likely going to die. After a moment of deliberation, he says, "Oh." You tell him that "oh" is a bit of an understatement. Luke, abscond. Taking advantage of his distracted state, you maneuver your way out of reach. If he's not going to take this seriously, you're going to have to take matters into your own hands. In the meantime, it might be wise to be someone other than yourself. You're going to need some time to plan.
Someone? I have no idea what's going on, and be okay with that. That's exactly what you're doing.